All right, the lead for Thursday, October 8th, 2015. Bounce Obama immediately. Russia has now launched a dynamic air, land, and sea offensive in Syria, in conjunction with the Syrian army, backed up by Hezbollah and IRGC forces. The primary targets are the Islamic State and the Army of Conquest, which is a Saudi creation dominated by al-Qaeda, the Nusra Front. Yesterday, President Putin met with Defense Minister Shoigu, and their meeting was partially televised. Shoigu announced that the Russian Navy had joined the combat against ISIS, with 4 Russian Navy ships in the Caspian Sea firing 26 cruise missiles a distance of 900 miles to ISIS targets in northern Syria. Iraq has indicated it will ask Russia to begin bombing operations against ISIS inside Iraq. Turkey has announced, contrary to NATO and Obama administration rantings, that relations with Russia are fine, and that a military channel has been established to make sure that there are no incidents between Russian and Turkish planes along the Syrian border region. Acting Prime Minister Davutoglu told reporters on Wednesday that Russian-Turkish relations are friendly and neighborly, and there will be no Turkey-Russia conflict stemming from the situation in Syria. Obama has been thoroughly outflanked and boxed in by the Russian actions, which have triggered a significant break from Obama by key traditional U.S. allies in Europe and the Middle East. Adding insult to injury, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton came out on Wednesday while campaigning in Iowa to announce her opposition to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This means that all 3 major Democratic presidential candidates have broken with Obama and on the TPP. Obama has been abandoned by all of his old friends with the sole exception of the Saudis. While Obama was celebrating the TPP deal over the weekend, it is more and more likely that it will boomerang against him and will catalyze all of his enemies emphasize that it is clear that Obama is being abandoned by all of his former friends, including Hillary Clinton. He can and must be removed from office at this moment when the issue of war and peace hangs in the balance. From Russia come warnings that Obama could totally flip out over the Putin diplomatic successes of recent weeks and look to start new color revolution war provocations against Russia. These could come in eastern Ukraine, in Moldova, in the Transdnestria, in Enclave, or in the Armenia-Azerbaijan-Caspian Sea region. Obama is stuck in quicksand up to his belly, but he is still a menace, and nothing short of his removal from office will fully resolve the crisis. The timing is essential. Wall Street and London are irreversibly bankrupt, and any trigger could detonate the blowout of the entire system. Glass-Steagall must be enacted before the blowout. The Federal Reserve is powerless, stuck with a balance sheet of $5.2 trillion, courtesy of the QE bailout and a zero interest rate policy that has further fed the bubble. Obama's removal, preferably under the 25th Amendment and the simultaneous passage of legislation restoring Glass-Steagall, represent the only sane option. Putin's flanking operations in Syria have created the necessary opening to bring down the whole Obama mess. Don't miss the historic opportunity. It may not come again. Supporting material. Russians launch air, land, sea assaults on jihadists in Syria. Russia and Syria have launched an air, land, and sea offensive against jihadist groupings in the last 24 hours. Syrian ground forces, backed up by Russian air cover, have launched operations to retake territory in the Hama and Idlib provinces that have been in rebel hands for months. Even the New York Times yesterday acknowledged that the current offensive has been in the planning for the past 4 to 6 months, involving Russian, Syrian, Iranian, and Hezbollah strategists. On Wednesday, Russian Defense Minister Shoigu met with President Putin to give a status report. Much of the meeting was televised. Shoigu reported to Putin that 4 Russian ships from the Caspian Sea Fleet had launched 26 cruise missiles strikes against Islamic State targets in northern Syria. The cruise missiles were launched from the middle of the Caspian Sea and traveled 900 miles to their targets, over Iranian and Iraqi airspace. Shoigu told reporters that intensive work of different intelligence services over the last 2 days has made it possible to detect a large number of various IS facilities, command posts, ammunition depots, military equipment depots, training camps of militants. He reported that 12 ISIS targets had been hit since September 30th, when the offensive began. In the meeting, Putin instructed Shoigu to seek cooperation from the United States, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Russia received a written proposal from the Pentagon for deconfliction. Russian MOD spokesman Igor Konashkov said the Russian government swiftly considered U.S. proposals to coordinate actions to fight the Islamic State terrorist group in Syria. These proposals can be accepted for implementation in general. We just need to specify some technical details that will be discussed today by representatives of the Russian Defense Ministry and the Pentagon at the expert level. Russia has responded to accusations of targeting non-ISIS groups with a proposal that any countries who know about specific rebel groups who are fighting against ISIS should share the information with Russia so that the anti-ISIS operations can be upgraded. In reality, Russian operations have targeted ISIS and also the Army of Conquest, the Saudi-created and Saudi-funded jihadist rebel faction that is dominated by the Nusra Front. The Syrian al-Qaeda affiliate, Army of Conquest, has targeted the Alawite enclave on the northern Mediterranean coast, and the Russian deployments into the Latakia area have countered that push. Russia continues to deploy advanced military equipment into Syria. Colonel Patrick Lang reported on his widely read website on Tuesday that Russia has placed a state-of-the-art jamming system at the airbase south of Latakia and has, in effect, denied non-Russian fighter planes access to the area. On Monday and Wednesday, the Turkish government issued statements countering the claims that Turkey is in a sharp conflict with Russia over the Russian deployments into Syria. Acting Prime Minister, pending upcoming new elections, Ahmet Davutoglu, confirmed that Russian-Turkish relations are friendly and neighborly, and that there is now a military-to-military commission to deal with deconfliction issues between the two nations. He made clear that the Syrian situation will not create a crisis in Turkish-Russian relations. In another sign of the shifting situation since the Russian bombing campaign began in Syria, Iraqi officials made clear that they want Russia involved in the fight against the Islamic State inside Iraq. Hakim al-Zamili, chairman of the Iraqi Parliament Defense Committee, was quoted in Russia today, "We might be forced to ask Russia to launch airstrikes in Iraq soon. I think in the upcoming few days or weeks, Iraq will be forced to ask Russia to launch airstrikes, and that depends on their success in Syria. We are seeking to see Russia have a bigger role in Iraq. Yes, definitely a bigger role than the Americans. Iraqi's Prime Minister Haidar al-Abadi told France 24 on Tuesday that his government would welcome Russian warplanes in Iraq. Russia warns of Obama freakout, new color revolutions. Rostislav Ishchenko, a Ukrainian strategic analyst now in Moscow, wrote a warning in the Russian publication MIA Rossiya Segodia that the recent diplomatic breakthroughs by Russian President Putin could drive Obama to new provocations against Russia. Ishchenko cited 3 recent diplomatic coups by Putin: his United Nations General Assembly speech, his flanking operations in Syria, and his Normandy Format Summit meetings, where he obtained German and French support for the Minsk Accords. Ishchenko wrote that if the Minsk Accords are violated under conditions where Paris and Berlin have refused to blame Russia, then Kiev will be rapidly defeated in southern Ukraine. If the truce is gone, the war resumes, but Kiev is not currently capable of waging war. Furthermore, Kiev is facing default, leading to further steep impoverishment of the population, as well as the inability to get more credit from the West. The author went on to highlight 4 flashpoints outside eastern Ukraine that could be detonated by Obama against Russia, starting with the situation in Moldova and Transnistria, where there is a threat of Maidan revolt and where right sector is threatening a blockade of supplies into the Russian peacekeepers in Transnistria. All the U.S. has to do is unleash the Moldovan and Ukrainian radicals, and there will be a new conflict zone, not covered by the Minsk Accords, into which Russia will be inexorably pulled. Moscow would likely organize an air bridge to Transnistria, while setting the stage for Ukraine to try and close its airspace, shoot down Russian planes, etc. In the Caucasus region, Ishchenko warned about a revival of the Karabakh conflict and the implications of hundreds of Chechen fighters with ISIS and the possibility of instability in America, where there are already protests over electricity. Central Asia is another flashpoint, since the Taliban moved to control areas of Afghanistan bordering on Tajikistan, where Russia has military contingents. Similar threats are directed against Kazakhstan from jihadists passing through Afghanistan into Central Asia. Ishchenko also cited October 11th elections in Belarus, which could be a trigger for another attempted color revolution, despite President Lukashenko's apparent strong position. The article concluded with a warning. Thus, having taken stock of Putin's victories on all fronts in October, we must expect a speedy attempt by Obama to regain lost ground. I would expect escalated brutality by IS in Syria, aggressive actions by the Kiev regime, and the activation of U.S. agents around all sensitive spots for Russia in the post-Soviet era.